So actually, if you look at my journey in my career over 34 years, I worked across every aspect of supply chains, from operations planning, manufacturing, logistics, procurement, and whether it is upstream or downstream. And these experiences, which sort of is like learning in a university, but at the workplace, I started to pick up stuff from there. And it's about my journey as well as the journey of many others with whom I worked in my career. And this work that I did across different aspects of the supply chain, solving unique puzzles over there with several teams and several functions, all of that I have been sort of picking up and writing over the last several years, almost like 13 years. And I thought that I should put it across in a book in a much more concise form, so that it reaches the people who are practitioners in supply chains and also supply chain leaders, and they sort of get to understand these puzzles better. But the genesis of the book is that I actually wanted the people to understand that the puzzles of today and the puzzles of future, they can only be understood well if we look at how great companies and great teams and great functions have come together to solve these puzzles in a very unique manner. And you can pick up this stuff from these several examples of great companies. And so how do you do that? How do you encapsulate all of this in a manner that it is the experience of reading is also good? So I sort of wanted to do that in an interesting manner, not exactly like a textbook, not a book on supply chain management, for example, that would make it that easy for people to understand. And I wanted to inspire people that look, these puzzles can actually be solved. They are being solved every day, whether it is in operations planning or whether it is in logistics, whether it is on the demand side or whether it is supply side. It is getting solved by ordinary people. And there are some skill sets which are needed, but it is again the coming together of the different functions who will sort of collaborate with each other to solve these puzzles. So how do I put all this stuff in form of a book with chapters and a continuity of things to sort of people to understand? So that's the way I sort of thought of this journey of writing the book and finally finishing off the book with these different aspects and taking up examples from even the current situation of the COVID environment, where you have disruptions, you have supply chains which are stranded, and it has to sort of combine in a very different manner, use technology very decisively and very accurately. So all of this has sort of come in the book, and so therefore it is about people who have solved it in other places, in other companies, and it is for the people who will use it, taking these examples from everyday life in these companies. So as we know that the value can be defined in many ways, and value is kind of multidimensional. And the beauty of this concept is that it keeps changing, and it keeps changing with the context, with the circumstances. And every time when there is a sort of a crisis as this one, which comes in a lifetime, everything gets reconfigured. What you thought was the only way of solving a puzzle, you find that, well, we have never looked at it in a kind of different way. And today, if you look at it, the crisis has come as such a huge opportunity. Of course, it's something which has created a lot of disruption in people's lives, for sure. But look at it from the point of view of what new thoughts it has brought in. And in the management space, in supply chains, I think it is completely reconfiguring the way some of these puzzles were earlier solved versus now. The very fact that if you look at global supply chains on a very massive scale, which were built on the principles of economics, that there can be, even if there is no presence of a competitive advantage or a comparative advantage, there could be simply global flows of goods and services. Today, when you have a disruption of this kind, then you kind of start to think that, well, have we stretched ourselves too big? And is it time for us to look at other options of localizing some of these solutions? And I'm a great fan of always rethinking and finding out new solutions. And I find that we have ignored, in many ways, some of these solutions which are easy to find even in the local setup. And so therefore, when you try to do that, your communities sort of get the opportunity of developing and learning and the capabilities around it. At the end of the day, I believe, look, the competitive advantage we want to build through putting in facilities and putting in infrastructure, these are important. But the capability building of people in very, very local setups, the learning opportunities that people have, this is essentially the core concept of make something in a small setup, in a country, in a local region, in a very, very small setup. And I learned some of these stuff when I was in Switzerland. I found that the whole concept of the smaller people is so important. And so this is an opportunity for us to again see where the value is. And so therefore, that's the way I see it, that it will be helping us to solve puzzles in a very different manner in this crisis. My first takeaway that I would like the people who would be reading the book to sort of take as an extract is that, look, supply chains are very complex things because you are dealing with organization of stuff, from making to distributing to sort of moving efficiently as in logistics, or even planning what you really want to do. So this complexity, how to understand it in a very simple manner. And it is about the coordination of several disciplines and functions. So my endeavor has been that people should understand well these complex puzzles in a very simple manner. So the book is about practitioners and leaders, but it is also about people who may be starting off their journey. Someone in manufacturing, for example, someone who is going to distribute stuff, as in the case of e-commerce. I mean, in India, the e-commerce journey is just starting. We are 1% of all the transactions is what we do in e-commerce, and some of the developed nations could be at 11%. So that's the kind of huge growth possibilities over there. We have to understand what supply chains are in this space, because at the end of the day, if you're not efficient, then we would not be able to grow. So it is about practitioners and leaders. It is also about people who are making their first step in this journey. And for them to understand these puzzles better, so they will be able to appreciate things much better in a very simple manner. And my endeavor would be to just ignite the thoughts, ignite the ideas. And if I have been able to ask more, make them ask more questions, I think my job has been partially accomplished. And I want people to interact, have more ideas, more discussions around supply chains. That will make our country better. That's how I see it.